Hi guys, so I want to show you this video of Gary Sambrook, Conservative MP and Brexiteer, who's going to complain about the Labour Party uploading videos onto YouTube and Twitter. Yes, he's complaining about that. Let's hear what he had to say.
Gary Sambrook. Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. Another week and another attempt by the opposition to scaremonger and spread fear. A time which could have been used in this place to debate how we respond collectively to the midst of this pandemic. And
okay, so he's complaining that the Labour Party are not jumping on board and forming some sort of government of national unity with the Conservatives to deal with the pandemic. But any time that Keir Starmer has presented some ideas, Boris Johnson has ridiculed them and then later adopted those ideas. For example, when Keir Starmer said, look, the government should impose a lockdown, should impose a circuit breaker, Boris Johnson ridiculed the idea and 2 weeks later adopted it. So you can't criticise the Labour Party for not providing ideas. When they do, you ignore them and then you accept them.
Global health crisis, but yet again time wasted on providing social media videos to scare people across this country.
What the hell is he talking about here? They're providing social media videos to scare people. I honestly have no idea what he's talking about. What social media videos?
It's as if the Labour Party have some kind of holy trinity of scaremongering. They have the NHS, they have animal welfare and standards, and then they have employment rights.
The NHS, animal welfare and standards. So if the NHS is under threat, well, you know, we have lots of evidence to back up the idea that the NHS is going to be sold off, has been sold off in certain ways. So if the Labour Party is saying, look, we need to protect the NHS because it's been sold off, please present evidence that it's not. Please present evidence that it is fully controlled by the state and there is no intention to sell it off. Animal welfare, I'm not sure what he's talking about here. He's going to later say that the UK has the highest standards or something like that and relate this to the EU. But I really don't understand where he's going with this.
Three things which they constantly say and attempt to try and scare people with time and time again. And it was Einstein that said that the definition of madness was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
What are you talking about? What is this guy on?
We saw it in 2010, 2015, 2016 EU referendum. We saw it in 2017 and 2019.
Okay, so if he's talking about the Labour Party have said, look, you shouldn't vote for the Conservatives because they're going to sell off the NHS. And he's saying this is scaremongering and that people didn't accept it. Well, people didn't accept it for a number of reasons. People didn't believe that the NHS was being sold off when it was. And the Tory-backed media have convinced people of two things. One is that the NHS is not being sold off. And second, that it's better if the NHS is actually sold off because private companies do a much better job than the state. You have to understand that the media in the UK, the Tory-backed media, will tell people two different stories at the same time. They will say the NHS is doing a fantastic job and then the NHS is doing a terrible job, it needs to be sold off.
Again and again, these arguments were deployed to people across the country, and every single time, those arguments were rejected roundly by people. The public, yeah, because they were convinced. In the same way they were convinced to vote for Brexit. And now look at what Brexit has delivered to the public. Look at the disaster that Brexit is. Just because you were good at selling it doesn't mean that it was a good idea. And it's because I genuinely think they don't understand the British working class anymore, Mr.
They don't understand. Yes, and who understands the British working class? The Conservative Party? They understand the British working class? They know how to con them. They know how to trick them. Is that understanding them? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Conservative Party do understand the working class. They do understand what convinces them to come out and vote. Many working class people turned out to vote for Boris Johnson because he claimed to get Brexit done. He would promise to look after the fishing industry. He said there would be no checks on the Irish Sea between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So he convinced people to vote for him. Is that a success? So he was very good at lying to people? Is it like, an evangelical preacher who's very good at lying to people, telling them, look, if you give me lots of money, I'll get you into heaven? When it's all a big con. If that's your idea of reaching out or understanding the poor, okay.
The Deputy Speaker. It's because of our NHS and it's because of our standards in animal welfare and food and because of our employment rights that people are proud to be British. And time
Okay, so this is a real bugbear of mine. This idea of proud to be British, proud to be anything, proud to be American, proud to be Irish, proud to be Japanese, proud to be Italian, proud to be French. I have a real issue with pride in your nation because I, like George Carlin, believe that pride should be something that you have achieved. It should be a feeling of a warm feeling inside that you have for something you have achieved. Why should you have pride in something someone else has achieved? Like if the NHS has done a great job, you should be happy for the NHS. But not proud of the NHS or proud of your nation. For example, during a football game or whatever, you can be happy. And that's a good thing. Be happy that your nation has done something good. But don't be proud, because pride is injecting yourself into someone else's achievements. If somebody else won a football game or ran a marathon and came first, why should you be proud of that? It's you injecting yourself into their achievement. They did the work. They achieved the result. You sat on the sofa cheering them on, okay, but you didn't do the marathon. You didn't play the game. You have no right to claim pride there. Look, once again, be happy that those people have achieved their goal. That's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a positive feeling, but not pride. A lot of people seem to think if I put a flag behind me, that makes, I'm showing I'm proud of my nation. You should actually, a true patriot is somebody who's constantly critical of their nation, wanting to make it better, never saying it's good enough, never saying we're better than anyone else. You should always be looking for ways for it to get better. And honestly, personally, I think I can never be proud of my nation because there is homelessness in my nation. There are children going hungry. There's poverty. How can I be proud of my nation while these things exist? I can be happy that we have solved some of these problems or we're working towards solving these problems. But as long as these problems exist, I will never be proud of my nation. And once again, pride should be in something I have achieved, not someone else.
Again, all they see as every election and every opportunity like today, they see Labour MP after Labour MP talking down this country and its achievements. The very reasons...
Why is that a bad thing? Why shouldn't you talk down? Look, he's painting this as some sort of negative. If the country is doing badly, shouldn't we acknowledge that and fix it? If you have a hole in your roof and you say, well, I'm just going to ignore the hole in the roof, you're not going to ever fix it. If the country is doing bad, if there's homelessness, if there's child poverty, if there are people going hungry, if people can't pay bills, if there is poverty connected with universal credit, people who are working and still poor, how is that something to be how can you be happy with that? I understand you as an MP are sitting on about £80,000 a year, so you don't feel that. You don't understand what those people are going through. But how can you be happy with that? Once again, proud. What is your achievement here? Have you voted to keep these people in this situation? Well, let's actually have a look at Gary Sambrook's voting record. This is from, once again, They Work For You. It says here, unfortunately, Gary hasn't been in Parliament a very long time, so we can't actually see a lot of his voting record because he hasn't much of a voting record. But I think Gary is someone to keep an eye on in the future. It says here, Gary voted for, let me just make sure you can see that. Yes, you should be able to see that. Gary voted on business and the economy, consistently voted against measures to reduce tax avoidance. So there were measures to stop rich people from not paying taxes, and he voted against those. We can leave in foreign policy. For example, he voted against transferring more powers to the Welsh Assembly, so he didn't want the Welsh people to have more power to deal with their problems. Consistently voted against transferring more powers to the Scottish Parliament, so he doesn't like the Scottish people either. Voted against proportional system for elected MPs, so a much more fairer political system, proportional representation model, or something similar to that, and working towards that, I should say. He voted against that. Voted against fewer MPs in the House of Commons. Now, we can argue about that, but maybe fewer MPs would be less of a burden on the state, and it would mean more money for maybe poor people. But let's hear what else he had to say.
Why we are able to stand tall around the world, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It's because of the living wage of £10.50 by 2024. But
£10.50 by 2024. Not like what's stopping you from doing it now? We're going to give the poor people £10.50 an hour. When? Now? No, not now. Next year. No, not next year. Well, okay, 2023. No, maybe 2024. Well, we'll keep it on the back burner so that when the election comes, we can say, oh, look what we're going to give you. Vote for us because we're going to give you this. Why haven't you given it to us already? Reasons and stuff. It's like this guy who's on £80,000 a year believes that people who are working their arses off don't deserve £10, over £10 an hour. Well, not yet. You do deserve it, just not today, okay? You do deserve it maybe in 3 years' time, okay? What the F? Yeah. Once again, he's talking about how the Labour Party are so disconnected from the working class. Yes, we can criticise the Labour Party in some regards here, but you can't stand up in Parliament earning £80,000 a year or close to £80,000 a year and say, we care about the working class. We demand to give them £10 an hour. Not today, but in 3 years' time. And this is something you're proud of? Once again, what have you achieved here? You could vote for it now. Why don't you demand there is a vote now? We give people £10.50 or whatever it was an hour now. Why don't you do it now?
People are proud to be British. It's because of our 28-week sick pay that they are proud to be British. It is because of our 52 weeks maternity leave that they are proud to be British.
Which I actually covered that Estonia, I think it was, has 62 weeks.
And it is because of our minimum 28 days annual leave that they are proud to be British. And every time you also hear from members of the opposition, they try and compare it to the same comparators in the European Union. And
the European Union, not European member states. Notice that he's using the European Union, not European member states. The European Union don't have a minimum standard here. So why are you comparing the UK when it was a member of the European Union just 2 years ago and you had these things? Now you're saying we're better than the European Union. So were you better than the European Union when you were a member as well? Or it's only now that you have left? This is what I don't understand about Brexiteers. They're saying, look how great we are now that we've left the European Union. We're able to do things that we were able to do before. And that's a criticism of the European Union.
And in some ways, if the British standards are inferior. But it doesn't take 5 seconds to Google some of those comparisons, Mr. Deputy Speaker. There is no requirement within the European Union for a living wage. There is no minimum for...
And yes, and sorry, this is your point? You do understand that other countries do have minimum wages. And they're members of the European Union. Does this guy not understand that he's trying to... I don't understand what argument he's trying to make here. He's trying to say, we're better than the European Union because we have this minimum wage. But you do understand that because there are countries in the European Union that have minimum wages as well, minimum standards, and they're not requirements of the European Union, but these countries have implemented them anyway. It's not like the European Union said, you can't have a minimum wage. They don't have a requirement. Individual countries make their own requirement. Now, maybe we can have a debate about whether we should have a minimum requirement for minimum wage. But, for example, countries like Denmark have been against that because they actually pay, they have a very strong union that support workers. And the unions say, look, if you set a minimum wage, it's going to be actually counterproductive because we want to have people with a very higher standard of living.
Sick pay. There is 14 weeks compared to our own 52 weeks for maternity and 20 minimum days rather than 28 here for our annual leave. And so it is because of this that people do not believe these scaremongering tactics. It's because they dismiss their many Facebook videos and Twitter.
What the hell is he on? Twitter videos and Facebook videos? Like, are you talking about videos from Parliament? Is he talking about videos that people upload onto the internet unrelated to Parliament? I have no idea what he's talking about here.
Twitter videos, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And it's because of this that when they look at the Labour Party, they no longer see a serious alternative to government. Because it's on occasions like this, when they could step up to the challenge, debate what the issues are facing this country, they decide to... video link.
Yeah, shut up. Sit down. You've run out of time. Really, I have no idea what he's trying to argue here. Is this a valuable use of parliamentary time? What did we gain from this? He's complaining about people uploading videos onto the internet and he's claiming that they're scaremongering, and he's made points that the European Union don't have minimum standards and the UK, when it was a member of the European Union, didn't have a problem with that. So why do you have a problem with it now? None of this makes any sense to me. If it does to you, let me know in the comment section, guys. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee. So why not check it out?